Good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, Sadia. I have been actually looking forward to this conversation because I have been in this little mission, like to actually figure out what is actually getting in the way between the vision that we have for our business, like the this big idea of as to like what we want to accomplish in terms of business, but also in life, you know. But the ideas that started popping up recently was like, you know what? Like I feel like there are so many bottlenecks, right? So many bottlenecks around the business. Now, this is just me and my engineering brain thinking like that. But it wasn't until I started paying attention to not just my work, but the work I'm actually doing for my clients and with their life and with their business that I started to notice that our body, okay, our body has this like response to new ideas or like we want to go for this because we have this big vision, yet the body becomes like a bottleneck in the process. And I know your expertise is all around grief. And I'm going to say that before I started this little video, I started to think I want for you to tell me what you see as grief, and I'm gonna of course ask you a few questions. But this
Mhm.
is an amazing opportunity for me to start bringing, experts around the concepts that I'm not good at. Yet we experience a lot of this bottleneck body related situations. And I just want to say that I am again honored to be here with you. So thank you so much for doing this. So if you want to go ahead and tell the world who you are, that would be amazing. And then we'll start, with some of the questions that I have for you.
Absolutely. No, it's my pleasure for being here. Thanks so much for having me. So, I'm Sadia Hameed. I am a somatic grief expert. I actually spent 25 years in nonprofits and philanthropy working on a lot of very difficult issues. And what I experienced myself, and I saw a lot of other people experiencing around me, is just that we have an exposure to trauma constantly. And a lot of times we think that trauma is the really big, awful events that happen. But that's not necessarily the case. We're being exposed to conditions and things daily that are making our body communicate with our mind and decide, are we safe or are we not safe? And what most of us don't know that we only learn much later in life is that a lot of this actually started when we were first born. Like in our first 5 years, our electro system in our body, between our nervous system and our mind and our actual physical body, has started to program on repeat, layer after layer. How do I keep this person safe? How do I keep me safe? So, my programming from the moment I'm born is designed, how do I keep Sadia safe? Now imagine when you're an infant, the fascinating thing about humans is that when we are born, we are entirely dependent on someone else. We literally cannot meet our own needs. So between the ages of 0 and 5, we are learning and adapting our behavior in order to get all of our needs met from somebody else. And that is normal. There's no judgment. No one does this wrong. We all do it, and that's how we end up being here, right? And when we grow older, and for example, we turn 18, which is considered adulthood in most countries, right? Nobody comes to us and says, hey, guess what? Everything that you programmed up until now, you get to determine what you want to keep and what you want to reprogram. Because now you have the capacity, the capability, the autonomy to do all kinds of things that wouldn't have been considered safe when you were younger, but your body is running a program that it remembers in those years. And everything it does layers on top of that foundational program. So some part of us is running as an infant, as a toddler, as a 5-year-old, even when we're well into our 40s and our 50s. So, this idea that the body remembers or that the body might prevent us from doing things is very real because the body is trying to go back through a catalog of memories and determine, is something safe? So, let's say you're working with a client and they just launched a business, and maybe they've never launched a business before. Maybe nobody in their family was an entrepreneur. Maybe they weren't super wealthy growing up. So now this person is trying to introduce into its body the idea of safety that the body has not experienced before. The body doesn't know if you're safe when you're making a lot of money, if it hasn't happened yet. The body doesn't know if it's safe to take risks as an entrepreneur that most entrepreneurs need to take in order to succeed. And so we have to reprogram it. And a lot of times, before we can reprogram it, we need to go in and be able to clear out some of the old programming that might be limiting those beliefs. If you grew up in a family where you saw your parents work very hard and struggle and maybe still not make ends meet, that's programmed into the body as an experience. So when you go to make your next 10 million, the body might be like, oh, I don't know. How do we hold wealth? How do we make that decision? What if we make a decision and it hurts our loved ones and our family? All of this is normal. There's no judgment. It just means that somewhere in our body, we're running something from memory rather than running it from the present. And the entryway for me into the work is through grief. Because what a lot of people experience in the moment when they're trying so hard to create a reality and they don't understand why it won't come into being, it starts to create a lot of grief and a lot of sense of like, why can't I do this? Am I capable enough? Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. And then all those limiting beliefs just layer on top of the old program, and everything in your system goes ding, 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 not safe, not safe.
So let me ask you this because I tend to analyze, multiple angles. And
Yeah.
when we talk about grief as an example, many people might actually get the concept of like losing someone. Like
Hmm.
you're grieving, that's how you pronounce it in English. You're grieving, right?
Yes.
Like losing someone you loved as an example, right? But
Yes.
in business, I started to notice my own experience is like things that happen to me or for me, things that happen that kind of like made me have some type of feeling, right? Like some type of
Hmm.
feeling that was an example with like, let's just say that you have a dream client. Like everybody talks about dream clients, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then that client either decides to cancel, decide to go, or the things end badly, right? And we do not process that as, or we don't see it. Number one, we don't see it as a period of allowing ourselves to grieve that, right? Like to actually let go of that, or we do not see the relationship between that's grief that has to be processed, not just not just losing someone in a sense of they passed away and now we're grieving. Does that make sense? Like hopefully I can bring the concept there because a lot of the times I saw myself as in okay, it hurt my feelings that a client left as an example, right? And then here I am carrying that feeling that I was not able to name until, of course, now talking to you. But we do not allow ourselves to process that. Is that the right word? Like to process grief? That's how you see it, right?
Hmm.
And then that's just an example. It can be multiple other examples. For my clients, I see it where we want to launch something or we want to offer a new something, and they're like, no, I don't want to launch a low ticket membership because so and so on my last attempt of launching a membership, they did this. So I no longer want to do, you know what I'm saying? Like we bring the whole drama into the why we're not making that decision, even if it's not about the feeling of I don't want to do it, right? There's a
Or
there's
I
a
don't
big
want the outcome.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
big difference there for a lot of my people, and they don't see it. Or I come up with a conversation with a new idea, let's do this, let's do that, and immediately, like they just hear that, and it's like they shut down. Like they do not hear anything else after the word or the trigger that brought them back to that feeling of something that was not processed or something that happened for them in the past. So what would you say around that?
So let's go one at a time. Let's start with the one where you have a dream client, it's everything you wanted, it's perfect, and then something happens and they cancel, right? Or they pull out. And in that moment, one of two things will happen. In that moment, either you really won't feel anything and you'll be neutral, or in that moment, there will be emotions that surface. And it could be a range of emotions. It could be disappointment, like, oh, like I was really looking forward to working with this person. And now I'm bummed because like they pulled out. So there's disappointment. Then there can be self-judgment. What did I do wrong? Did I say the wrong thing? How do I save this? How do I recover, right? And that can become a bit of a reactionary loop. Or there could be a little bit of anger, or you know what, like I don't need them. You know what? I can't believe they wasted my time. I spent so much time on this. I can't believe this happened. And I'm not saying any of these things with judgment. These are the normal range of human emotions. We're all meant to feel them, and we should be if we're here experiencing life fully. When these emotions come up, though, that tells you something about what this event is revealing to you about how you feel about being in these kinds of situations. And usually, if the feeling is just healthy and fleeting, and I mean healthy in the sense like it doesn't stay, right? And it doesn't make you spiral. You think, wow, I'm bummed. I can't believe that happened. I'm so sad. But you know what? Now I'm going to focus on my next one, right? So you could have that. That means there's no old story or grief necessarily stored in your body. You're able to move on from it. You feel the feeling. Within 90 seconds, any emotion will pass through our body unless we attach a story to it. So it could pass and you could keep moving. For the people who stay in it, where it starts to mean something more than just that person making a decision that really isn't personal. It feels personal. It's our business. It's really not personal though. That means that there's some kind of story, identity, belief, program that is still in our body that is being triggered, that is making us feel unworthy or not capable, that's making us feel like we wasted our time, we did something wrong. And and usually that has been layered and layered and layered. Like it's many experiences that have been layered on top of each other. And then in that moment, someone could be like, you know what? Like, I give up. Or there's no such thing as an ideal client. Ideal clients don't exist anymore. Or I'm going to make my terms stronger, right? And then we either react or we respond to the situation. When we are in reaction mode, our emotions are responding. When we're in response mode, we're actually very calm, we're neutral, and we're just taking the next step to move us forward to whatever our goal is. So people say, Sadia, well, what does this have to do with grief? And I'm like, for me, grief is actually a very universal feeling. For me, grief is something that just ended up being unfulfilled, something we wanted, and it ended up being unfulfilled. And that lack of fulfillment starts to live in our body and not be resolved. So, in the classic cases you mentioned, like losing a loved one or a divorce or a diagnosis, we understand those. But in this kind of a situation, the grief is still there. You wanted the client said no. And in that moment, you feel something. Now, if you make it a story about yourself and your worthiness and your business and your capability, then it does. It's going to become a bottleneck. You won't be able to move on from that. In the second example you gave, which was, what was it around a launch?
Any new idea that I bring to the
Or
table, like we want to do
any new
something, or
idea?
here's something we can actually do, but like something that happened to them in the past, or myself included. I like again, I'm there.
That
I'm
stops
for
them.
that. Yeah, it's just like we don't even hear the afterthought of like why this makes sense now or why this could be a great opportunity. They just shut down by the by that trigger that brings them back to that feeling of what we did in the past that we want to try to avoid, you know?
So in that situation, it's really fascinating because the trigger is actually the key. When we understand what the trigger is, then we can trace the trigger to whatever that root feeling, that root experience might be. And when you clear the grief that's there about, not being chosen, not being capable, not being worthy, doing something and failing. So the interesting thing is like I see so many people hold a lot of grief around failure. And I was telling Monique this on Wednesday. I said, I also have had the opportunity to listen to a lot of very successful people talk. And when they talk about their failures in business, like losing a lot of money, making decisions that were risky that didn't pay off, they talk about it just as a part of the experience. And a way that we can liken it to is when we're little children and we're going from crawling to walking, most of us don't just stand up one day and start running. We go through that difficult, awkward stage that most of us are happy looks cute and we don't always remember, where we fall down over and over and over again. And we have someone else there encouraging us, right? Stand up, try again. You got this. You're doing great. And so, if we think about it, there are certain examples in our life where failure would have been encouraged because it was known that the growth that we're looking for, the experience of life that we want to inhabit and create, lies on the other side of that growth, and we walk through it. Now, in other examples, though, the same people, our parents, our caregivers, our teachers, our guardians, who were cheering us on to learn how to walk, might not have been as favorable to failure in other areas. Maybe it was our grades in school. Maybe it was what we decided we wanted to do in a career. Maybe it was our choice of relationship. Maybe it was an investment we made that went wrong, right? It could be all, maybe it was a situation where we made a decision and it was a poor choice, right? This has happened to all of us. Again, this is part of living and being human. We're going to keep doing these things even into our older age. But as we get older, there's a judgment that becomes attached to failure. Oftentimes, either we didn't feel worthy enough, or we didn't feel capable enough, or we were made to feel afraid that the wrong decision will get us into trouble. The wrong decision could be dangerous. And so the body starts storing all of that, right? It's trying to help us survive. So anything attached to fear, anything attached to danger, anything that threatens the identity of self to sustain itself starts to get recorded. And then the trigger comes up, sometimes unexpectedly. So you could say, hey, I have this amazing idea for you. It's a little bit different to what you've done. Or you tried it before, but I think I figured out how we can really make it work now. And here's what I've done in order to help you do that. And if the person has the unresolved grief, though, and it could go all the way back to a very early memory, then that when that trigger comes up, it literally scrambles your system inside. It is designed to create a response that makes you completely veer away from whatever that choice or that decision may be. And when it happens, people feel it physically. Your heart starts racing. You stop listening. Your mind starts talking instead. Maybe you start sweating a little. You're not really sure what it is, but in that moment, your body is sending you signals. And those signals block your ability from actually staying present and listening and assessing the situation and then making a decision accordingly. So when you go into the body and you find what the triggers are and where they are in your body, and you just gently you clear them, you dissolve them, you call in and you reprogram something else somatically, then the next time you talk to that person, they're not going to feel the trigger the same way. They're going to remember that they tried this and it did not work out well and that they did not like that experience, but their body is going to stay neutral, which allows them to stay present, which allows them to say, you know what, Layla? Okay, I'm interested in hearing your idea, but here are 5 things that happened to me last time, and I will not go through those things again. So, how do we make sure we avoid it? Now you're having a conversation, right? Now you're planning. Now you're co creating. And that's a very different experience.
Yes, yes, it is, and sometimes the things there is like we do not slow down to have those type of conversations. Like I feel like every other person that I work with, we're like on speed, right? Like it's momentum, action, traction, and go, 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 go. So for anyone to actually create a space to even process that type of thinking, it's almost non-existent. And so for probably is like we're gonna have to like either create some type of space for them to raise their hand and say, those concerns, or we need to send them to you so they can so they can actually,
They
process
can
this,
clear the
because
grief.
we're carrying this, we're carrying this feelings, the triggers, the emotions, and all those things without even knowing that they are actually there.
Yeah.
I say that in my case, I always talk about failure being my best strategy because for me, and I'm gonna tell you the other side of the equation here. For me, it's all about let me go and try, let me go and change the name 10 times, let me go and change the funnel 100 times, let me go and like do, right? Like, promote different offers. But like I go for the emotions of like let me try until I get to the thing that I feel like it clicks, right? But let me tell you the other thing here is that as I am going through the motions of doing a lot of the things,
Mm-hmm.
things start to kind of like um, move. Let's just use that word as an example. If I change something and then a client is canceling because they didn't like the thing we're changing, right? Or they just canceled just because it just happened during my changing process, right? And then I'm
Okay.
like, okay, I'm not gonna pay attention to that because I'm on a mission. I want to do that, right? So then let's just imagine that from Monday through Thursday, I'm going through the changes and I'm making
Mm-hmm.
things happen, and then all things are actually rearranging themselves. And then by Friday, I can feel the actual heaviness of me not paying attention, not slowing down, trying to like avoid the feelings, trying to like, okay, yes, I heard that that person canceled the membership or whatever, right? But by Friday, and I'm just putting it on a timeline there. But then
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the week, I'm like, oh my goodness, why can I not even make myself go to the computer with this again idea that yes, failure is my best strategy. And why do I get to feel that draining energy at the end of the week when all these things started to happen, right? So I try to neglect, I try to ignore as I am actually up and running, but then the minute I slow down, I can feel the heaviness of like, oh, and this thing happened and the tech issue, and then add life and like all the things, and I can feel that energy dropping, and I think it's because I'm actually caring. And again, you're the expert. This is just me and my thinking, because I'm actually carrying all those emotions through the motion through the motion of doing things, I'm carrying the emotions. So it gets to a point when I slow down, then I can actually start feeling the heaviness of all the things that I didn't pay attention to, or maybe it's not even paying attention, something else, like something is there that needs to be decoded. But what do you say around that?
Well, what you're describing, the busyness, the keep moving, the keep going, the, you know what, I'll deal with that later. Right now, I'm going to stay focused. That hyper focused, hyper productivity that is very much rewarded and promoted in the workplace is something that actually becomes the recipe for burnout. Because, and this is why, and the more we do it, the less we want to slow down, because slowing down suddenly means having to deal with the emotions. And to be very honest, most people in society are not given effective and easy tools to deal with those emotions. And so it feels like it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard. I don't have time for that. I've got to stay focused on what I'm doing. Meanwhile, your body is sending you signals. You're feeling more tired, you're feeling more heavy, you're not quite as motivated to go back to your computer by Friday. This is your body trying to get your attention. Eventually, it will get your attention through burnout. You will just shut down because it will be like, you know what? I have too much in me that has not been released. And so therefore, it's system malfunction. It can't keep functioning. And we're taught to have more discipline, plan more, do more, be more strict with ourselves. And again, those things only buy you time, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller the longer that you do it. And I've been a leadership and an executive coach also for quite a long time. And when I'm working with high level executives, I see this in them often. By the time they get to me, they're already at the burnout stage, and they've been ignoring these signals for a long time because the idea of being able to slow down, like they feel like they can't slow down. There's nowhere in their schedule to slow down. They didn't actually design their business or their leadership in order to slow down. And that's one of the first places I start. So I created a nonprofit from the ground up back in 2019. And when I was creating the culture for that organization, I made slowing down a part of the culture. It wasn't optional, it was something that we all did. Every Friday, we had a day that was called My Day Friday. I recognize that, people are working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, traditionally. They don't have time to go to the doctor. They don't have time to take their kids to the doctor. They don't have time to reflect. They don't have time to do anything. And so on Friday was a non-meeting day, fully paid day. And every Friday, I said, you're going to take care of yourself and your life and your family, have a transition between work and home, and you're going to spend some time just reflecting on this week. Think about the things that were great. Think about the things that were tough. Think about the things that we want to address together next week. Then we would do these weekly every quarter. I'd give them a whole week to do this. And then in the summer, we did it a week a month. So over the summer, they got 3 weeks to do this. And everyone looked at me and said, there's no way that's going to slow down productivity. And I said, no, I'm working with the body. I'm working with the physiology. I'm working with the whole person, 360-degree self. And I promise you, the results will speak for themselves. And they did every single time. Like our productivity was through the roof. We had the dream. We worked from 10 to 2. Everything else was asynchronous. People took their time off. My goal was to have people work their 40 hours and 20 and go enjoy their life. But I could have never designed this if I was actually ignoring the body and the burnouts that I had experienced as well. And it's interesting when we talk about failure, I have a very similar approach to yours. I'm like, well, if we don't try it, we're not going to know. We're never going to have anything that's so perfect that goes out there the first time. The question is like, can we accept failure as a part of the process so that we learn from it and get curious about it rather than going through the self-judgment about it? In order to get to that place, you really do have to do some inner work where you're just letting go of the junk and the stories. Like, if you don't want to have time to slow down, the best thing you can do is clear those old beliefs out of your body so that they're not showing up like a haunted house every single time you go through this process. And you don't have to like run away from the ghosts every time. Instead, you're neutral. And it might, pinch a little bit here and there. Like, of course it does. We're human, but you can move through it. I mean, the light bulb wasn't invented the first time. Neither were probably windshield wipers or anything else that we enjoy as a modern convenience. It likely went through 100 iterations. We just don't get to see all of the messy iterations. And we live in a culture now of social media where people show you their beautiful final outcome, but they will almost never share with you all of the messy, ugly, difficult moments that they went through to get there. And this is one of the things that to me is actually the biggest disservice for all of us because there are not certain people who just have a magic key who get to skip the messy and the ugly in order to get to the beautiful. They're either just not showing it to you and they're doing a really good job of hiding it and not letting you see it and they're falling apart when they're not on the camera and have a whole entourage of people trying to support them through that. Or they've done this work and therefore they are able to move through it and just take it as it comes. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And actually, I'm gonna tell you two things there. Number one is in engineering, I spent over 10 years working in engineering, manufacturing plants, okay, in the automotive industry. And what actually we did something that was called failure mode analysis, but there was actually one room, we'll call it the failure room. It's like one room in the plant, manufacturing plant, dedicated to make we were as an imagine cables of a car, like the cables that goes inside of a car,
Make the
right?
cables fail.
Make the cables fail. That was
Stress it.
exactly the
Stress the
whole
system.
purpose of the
Mhm.
actual room, right? And then you
Yeah.
had machines pulling the cord 100 times until it broke. And then we will start measuring, you know what? After 100 tests, it broke. After this, it failed. After that, you know what I'm saying? And that's actually why I think my whole point of like, let's make it fail, it turns into the, okay, if I'm going to make a funnel fail as an example, is like, I'm looking for the opportunities to make it better, right? In my head. People
Exactly.
don't even want to share a link because like something's like they are afraid it's not well put together or it's not good or the copy or the colors, And there is a lot of to be unpacked there. But now going to the second point of this is I work behind the scenes of multiple 6, 7 figure businesses. People call it like that. Imagine that at the beginning we're trying to make some money, but then you get to a point in which you're making $30,000 is a normal. 6 figures a month is a normal. Like those kind of numbers a month. Like what many of us are trying to make a year person is actually making in a month.
Right.
In the social media, everything that was put out there was polished, curated, perfect. Nothing would
Mhm.
actually pass this gate as in the person that's actually showing the realness of running a business at that capacity. Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with how much money we're making. The thing is that they, what you said, they have a team. Like they had Layla in the back end trying to figure everything out, right? Like they had a team of people. Like they have a someone cleaning the house, someone taking care of the kids. Like they do have all those things, yet life is not perfect. But they were
Mhm.
never actually showing that. In my particular case, I tend to talk about a lot of things nowadays, but I have actually been censored so many times because I start talking about the realness of running a business, and people are like, no, 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 don't tell the world, you know. I remember one of my clients being actually in Cancun. They were in Mexico, and they were in this beautiful beach. They went there for her sister's wedding or something like that,
Mhm.
and she was on the phone crying with me. She's like, I can't let go. Like, I have this client and this person and this need and this and this. Like, everybody needs something. And I'm supposed to be here in the wedding with, my sister, blah, blah. And I can't, crying, right?
They couldn't be
Yet,
present.
20
Mhm.
minutes later, after the call ended, I see her posting a picture of herself by the pool with the laptop on her lap, and the margarita by the side, saying how beautiful life was because you can run your business from anywhere in the world. Now, this
Mm.
is just an example. I bring so many stories, right? But then I go and talk about, like, you know what, we should actually be a little bit more open and tell the world what actually is happening in our lives that would actually help us create or kind of like break that perfect world type of narrative that every other person seems to be having out there. And then when I talk about it, like I'm not accepted.
Right.
Or when I say things the way they are, it's like, no, Leila, like stop talking about that because like the image you're actually putting out there as in you're making yourself feel the victim. I was like, I was the victim. I was the one working 40 hours a week for that person. And she was the one saying that, you can run a six-figure business only working 1 hour a day. And I was like, but they were missing the whole context, right?
Yes, probably when you have a team of other people potentially who are running other parts of the business, or
Exactly.
your business has come to a point where you've managed to automate it to the point where you don't have to be in it all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And that is the dream. And so let's go back to this example of Mexico because there's two sides to the coin. One is I really do wish people would stop saying things are beautiful and easy when they're not because too many people are being misguided to try and seek that out and get that outcome very quickly. If I don't get that perfect outcome right away, then something has gone wrong here. And that's ultimately not necessarily going to be true or real life. But the other side to the coin is that actually a part of my heart aches for this person being at such a beautiful occasion, their sister's wedding in a gorgeous place, and feeling so tied to the business or their body sending them signals of a lack of safety in their business without their presence to the point where they couldn't actually inhabit the life they were in that moment, which is being there and having that experience. And here's the thing I ask people, and I've asked this of many mentors. I've paid a lot of people a lot of money to get honestly not great answers. But here's the thing is I'm like, what's the point of having the beautifully curated successful business if you can't go away and enjoy the life experiences that that business as an engine is meant to create in your life? Why do we want to earn money? So that we have options and choices, so we can be more present, so we can live a beautiful life with our loved ones. But here's where a lot of metrics of wealth actually have been skewed because people assume a certain amount of revenue, a certain amount of money is going to be the answer and is the driving metric. And everything we see right now is leading us in that direction. But I would argue that if this person has all that money and success, but they don't have the ability to be present at that wedding and be so present and so grateful that that is the only thing they need to focus on, then there is an absence of wealth from their life in other places. And my goal is to help people restore those metrics of wealth in their life, because there will be, at some point in time, a reflection and a feeling of grief that here I was and I wasn't able to enjoy it. And I'm sure this person has thought about this a number of times. I make this look so good, but why doesn't it feel so good? Why couldn't I enjoy it and be present in it fully? And the answer is because they're still stuck and looping in patterns that have them running an old program. And the grief compounds it, right? Sometimes when we enter through that door of grief, I went, Sadia, I thought I had everything. I thought I had it all figured out. I got there. I ended up crying on the phone to Layla. And then I had to post pictures that made it look perfect because I meant to be perfect, right? Isn't that what I'm here for? To be perfect. It's got to be perfect. Otherwise, I'm going to let people down. But I couldn't even enjoy my sister's wedding. That's the first portal of grief. And when you follow that, you will go into all the other places. And when you collapse that, you can collapse all of it. Like you can dissolve all of it together at the same time. People don't even have to tell me what it is they're coming to release. Like, I'm not there to be in your business. I'm just there to help you walk through the process where you can release whatever that is from your body so that the next time you get to be away, you actually get to enjoy being away.
Yes.
And perfectionism is one of the biggest trauma responses that we see. And we see it in very high proportions amongst women. I'm not going to say we don't see it amongst men, we do. But the level of perfectionism and the level of like negative self-talk or the level of internal critique that women have for themselves when they are not performing in whatever perfect means in that moment, which is always changing, is extraordinary.
Mm.
And underneath that response is a memory, an event, a series of circumstances, an environment that told them that they were not worthy or they were not safe unless they were doing everything to look a certain way to the approval of other people rather than to the actual lived experience that they're having themselves.
Yes, yes. So here's another thing that, that came up when you were talking. A little bit ago, we were talking about the busyness, right? I am always working, and everybody jokes about this, but it's like 27. Even if I'm asleep, I'm working. But the thing I was gonna tell you here is that for some people, we tend to be using the busyness as this coping mechanism. No, actually not a coping mechanism, as a self-defense mechanism, right? We don't want to slow down because we don't want to deal with the emotions. I've been there, totally like honest about that. But here's the other piece. For me, I work and work and work and work. And even if it's not on the computer, I'm doing something. I get up, do dishes. I get up and, like I'm always doing something. But there is this big difference between doing something because we enjoy the work, we enjoy the doing and the being and et cetera, versus the person that even if they work 1 hour a day, they hate what they are doing. I've noticed this with a lot of my clients because they would tell me, and again, it gets to be personal because I do work behind the scenes of the businesses in multiple cases. Like I get to hear what nobody else, they cannot even admit this to their coaches. But like people saying, you know what? I hear the Slack notification and my body feels like somebody dumped this big cold bucket of like ice water and like it doesn't even matter what it is. I
I
just
don't even
hear
want to
it
open
just
it.
triggers, right? Or I don't even want to look into PayPal or my email because I'm scared somebody's going to cancel. Like to that level of like, and they are making money, let me tell you. So like if one person cancels or if one thing happens, it's really not going to be the end of the world. For them, it is. And even though they are working 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, I remember working with someone that Um, she was like, I don't want to do this, but I can't let go because this is what makes me money. She's like, I hate this. I want to be doing this, but I can't. I can't and I don't want to because like my fears and I'm scared that this is gonna happen and then I'm not gonna have money. And they have so much resentment for their business.
Mm.
And this is not the my business is not making money, let me go and work at Walmart type of conversation. This is like
Right.
my business is making money. Why am I so resentful? Why am I not even happy even if I'm working 1 hour a day as an example? Like what do you see happening there?
I see people who have never learned how to ground and embody safety within themselves. So they're seeking the feeling of safety in their external circumstances. That means that it doesn't matter how much money you earn, there will always be a fear that it won't be enough, or that it will be taken away, or that you need to do more to continue to feel worthy of whatever you have. When you begin to really dissolve and transmute and release old unresolved grief from your body, and you start to go into these patterns and these belief systems, and you start to clear them and renegotiate them. So I talk a lot about your inner crossing guard and your inner gatekeepers. This little feeling, that is allowing the pattern to keep looping, and that will give you evidence in your life of why it needs to continue to exist, because it determined that it was essential for your safety and for your well-being. Now, it's always well intentioned. A lot of people think our patterns and our programs need to be cut and broken and destroyed because they're all bad. No, the pattern is protective. It wants you to stay alive. It never upgraded the program, though, to allow you to thrive. Now, there's a difference between surviving and there's a difference between thriving. And that doesn't actually come down to money. It comes down to a sense of feeling truly safe and centered in your body. When you go in and you follow the grief and you find what these programs are and you trace them back, what you do is you renegotiate it. You go, you know what? Hey, thank you for trying to keep me so safe, but I would now like to let go of this and invite this in instead. But most people are raised in order to find their security elsewhere. And that is the biggest illusion any of us can live in. It could be your paycheck, it could be the money in your bank account, it could be the relationship or the marriage you're in, it could be, your children, it could be anything. True safety comes when we root so deeply into ourselves that the external circumstances can and will come. But we are neither blown around in a storm because of them, nor do we start going and spiraling as though we need someone else to come save us from them. And so it's like, imagine ships don't have anchors so that they don't go and explore places. Ships have anchors so that they don't become unmoored and get knocked around by storms and bad weather and by winds. It's the same thing with the roots of a tree. And so we need to anchor and root into ourselves. When you have a lot of unresolved grief in your body, it's very difficult to do that. You can't, because your body is so scrambled and it is so chaotic in there that the roots aren't actually able to anchor into anything. The moment you start to clear it, you start to anchor so deeply into yourself that when that hard event comes, it doesn't mean it's going to be like enjoyable. It's still going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be okay no matter what happens. So the people you are describing have an absence of anchoring of safety in their body. And that's one of the biggest outcomes that a lot of people working with me start to cultivate. As you have that sense of safety in your body, as you clear out that noise and you're not triggered constantly by the Slack message or by anything else. The message is the message. You choose to read it then, you choose to read it later. It doesn't actually trigger anything in your body. Then from there, you can make all your decisions and you can actually enjoy your life. I mean, to me, the interesting thing about what you describe, and this is just my own personal view, I'm not asking anyone else to adopt it. But for me, I realized that life was neither about working just 1 hour a day, nor was it about working all the time, because I've done both. Life for me was about deciding when I wake up every day, what do I want to experience today? And how do I want to feel in that experience? And my work will bring me that. My children will bring me that. My time in silence by myself will bring me that. My time out with my friends will bring me that. Taking care of my home will bring me that. But I'm choosing that. And I'm choosing it for the experience it gives me so that I can be present here in this moment. Today I'm here and I'm live with you. Yesterday I was riding roller coasters with my kids all day. Did the 1 day away from my business cripple my business? No. And if I was so worried that it would cripple my business, would I want to live a life that would not allow me to go? No. Do I want to ride roller coasters with them every day? No. You know, it's like it's all about it's like and it never needs to be either or, but we have these two extremes. And to me, in both extremes, there is a little bit of avoidance of something. And part of that something is being able to be fully present and just inhabit it in your body and yourself, where sometimes you're not doing anything at all and you just have this feeling of just being so happy to be alive and so grateful. And you're smiling. I'm smiling because when I feel that, I can't help but smile. And then there's everything else that you're doing too. And like, that's embodied life. That's a present life. Like, that is what I want everyone to wake up and feel. And then it's like, you can have $20 in your bank account or $20 million in your bank account, but that's not going to determine if you feel safe or not. If you can feel safe and fully present in your life when you're not doing well, then you can carry that while you are doing well without the fear of what might happen if that circumstance changes, because it can. The economy can crash, the stock market can go haywire, all your clients can leave, you could get sued, all kinds of things can happen, right?
Yes, yes, so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And just one more question, and
Of course.
then I have another thing I want to say. But
Okay.
the do you think that the business gets to feel heavy because of what? Like what is actually getting there? I keep actually I felt myself this recently as in I had to restructure the whole thing because like I was just it felt like I was carrying too much. And
Mm,
I don't even understand why, because this past year I did less than every other year, right? And
mm,
the heaviness is one of those things that I notice with a lot of people. Like we feel that burnout, or we experience that burnout because we're carrying a lot, but it's not necessarily the 100 items on your to-do list that we're carrying. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about like all the what do we say, emotions or trauma, or like what do you say is there that's actually creating this heavy thing that we continue to carry? And then how do you actually help people to like move on to the other side of the of the paradise there?
Absolutely. I mean, I can give you a personal example. The nonprofit I talked to you about, I ran that nonprofit for 5 years. We were incredibly successful. COVID came, we were already global and virtual, and so we skyrocketed. The culture was beautiful. Everyone there felt taken care of. People who left to move on to amazing jobs. Other people never wanted to leave. Like it really was. It was extraordinary. And on paper, I had absolutely everything every working parent dreams of. I had a dream schedule. I was taking really good care of myself. I was successful. I had a great reputation. I'm a solo mom. I was raising my kids. Everything was great. And I came to a point where I felt like I was carrying the whole world on my shoulders because I was carrying the world on my shoulders. I was carrying my kids on my shoulders, my home on my shoulders, my entire team on my shoulders, everything and all the expectations and everything. And at one point I hit burnout in the middle of what looked like what should be really successful. I did not hit burnout during COVID when most other people did. I had burnout many years later, and I sort of thought to myself, this doesn't really make very much sense. Like, what more could I be doing to make this experience better? Like, every box is ticked. So what is it in me? What are the boxes in me that are not ticked? And I started to realize, I had this question of like, okay, I have the perfect schedule, but I still feel like my security comes from that paycheck that hits my bank account on a particular date in a particular amount. And and I still feel like I'd be like a little bit worried living in America and not having full health insurance for my kids if it wasn't right. Oh, like I started going into it. Like I love my team, and at the same time, I've put them on my back. And so I can't even be upset that I feel this way. Like I did it. I was, like as the leader, not because they weren't self-sufficient or able to be autonomous. Like I had always assumed that as a part of my leadership role. All of these different things. When I started examining it and I really went deep into it, I said, Sadia, like, okay, it's deeper, it's deeper, it's deeper, it's deeper. And then I hit the point where it went ping. And I realized that the reason why I was burnt out and I was exhausted was I was still living a life and performing a life, living it and performing it to the standards that I believed would be approved by everybody else. And everybody else is a vague term. My old bosses, my parents, nobody was necessary. There was nobody standing over me with a report card, judging me every year. I had done that to myself. I put myself in that prison. I put myself in that cage. And when I realized that, I thought, I'm burnt out and I'm exhausted because I've spent all this time resisting myself. I spent this time resisting what I really want in life, what my joy really is, what I'd really like to be doing. And it didn't make any of the things I was doing wrong or bad. I just came to the point where I was like, who am I outside of these things? And if all those things go away tomorrow, will I still feel completely safe and content and happy just in me? And that was a process of determining who I was then, and going in and just releasing things that were not mine anymore, things that came from my lineage, things that came from my grandparents, things that came from my parents, things that came from old bosses, things that came from something I was told when I was young that I never forgot about, and I don't even know why it was still hanging out in my body. I had never done a spring cleaning of my own self.
Love
I
it.
had done personal development, right? I had done spiritual awakening. I was the best student you could ask for. All my boxes were ticked all the time. But I had gone in and come out and gone in and come out. I hadn't gone all the way in to just be like, who am I? And if I could be anyone today, like, who do I really want to be? And what does she sound like? And what does she do? And can I find safety in knowing that no matter where I want to steer my ship, that I am so anchored in myself that I will always manage to weather the storms and get to my destination. Then it matters less who's paying for your health insurance. Not because that's not a real life issue, but because you understand that you're capable. And when you realize how much chaos you've co-created, you feel really powerful. Because it's like, if you can do that, can you imagine what else you can create? At that point, I looked around at my life and I said, I built this whole life from pain. My pain was my biggest fuel. Every time I hit grief, I used it and I grew like a supernova. And I was tired of building it that way and believing that the next big thing would be my next big break, right? That's not a way to live.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live that way. I want to be happy. I want to be like, what is this happy thing everyone talks about? I want to be happy, not just be happy on paper. I want to feel happy in my body. I want to experience happiness and what that joy feels like. And in that moment, I had to take full responsibility for all of it. There was no one to blame. Not because other people weren't involved in situations, but because I realized I co-create every part of my reality. And if I built this life from pain and suffering, oh my God, what could I build from joy? Because the vibration of joy is a million times more expansive than the vibration of pain.
I love that. I love that. It's so beautiful, you know. And let me ask you this last question. The work you actually do with your clients, you know, the I'm probably gonna oversimplify it, but just use you replace my words with your own, okay? If I actually look into like the business side of things, and then we are making decisions or not making decisions based on the, let's call it strategy. Should I launch a 101, or I don't want to work 101 because I don't want to deal with clients because of what happened to me in the past kind of thing? Do you actually work with them on the now, or do you actually go back to like what is actually causing them to feel this way? As in the now, because you mentioned that a lot of the things that we're experiencing now started in our childhood. So when you work with people, with your clients, is there a unique way you do this, or every client is different around that?
So I would describe some of my work as like a pick your journey, in a way. I have clients who come to me for leadership coaching. They will come to me usually and they think they know what it is that they want. So I'll give you an example. I had a woman who I have known and respected for a long time. She came to me, she said, I think I'm ready to transition. And I was like, you just spent a decade building this. You want to transition? It was not my job to talk her out of the transition. I said, all right, here are the 5 things I want you to do before you announce a transition. I've dealt with many transitions of my own and other people. Here are 5 things I want you to hold off on. Don't tell the board, don't do these things just for now. Okay, great. By our second session, we had gone deeper. What is it really? Why do you want to transition? What's going on? I love what I do, but like it just feels like too much. I don't want to do it like this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to do it like this anymore. Okay. What does it feel like? Like, what does that feel like, right? So we dropped down. We didn't necessarily go into we didn't go into the body and clear somatically in that. But what I did was I followed the thing you say you want or you don't want to do. And I followed it all the way back until we got to what it really was in the experience. By 5 sessions, Layla, like, so within 3 months, she went from wanting to transition out of her decade legacy to saying, I don't want to do that. I have a plan with my leadership team now. I understand the personal things in my life that are also contributing to this with my partner and my kids and my this. I didn't, I gave her suggestions. I can coach. I gave her suggestions. I've lived in her shoes before. But what I did was I brought her back to an awareness and an agency of really knowing what you want and finding the pathway to get there. And you get there. And you get there really fast. So that's one example. The second example is I had someone come to me and say that they had been to therapists and counselors and personal development and all of these things, but there was something that happened in their life and they just know that it is blocking them from being able to move forward. And they don't know what else to do right now, but they see it and they know that they need to move past it and they just don't know how to. And I said, okay, you don't even need to tell me what it is. We go through a guided, self-guided process. Like I guide you, but you are doing it for yourself. Like I'm not a magician. I'm not coming in and shifting around your energy. I'm helping you connect into how you feel it, how you experience it, how you listen to it. And we went in there, we cleared it. And one woman in the days after clearing it, she said, Sadia, it has never been so quiet before. I didn't know it could be so quiet in my mind. I didn't know it could be so peaceful in my body. Like I sometimes I'm not even sure what to do. The noise is gone. Yeah, the noise is gone. The other woman told me that, she had processes of needing to integrate it. And there were a few days of feeling more tired and emotions coming and big releases coming. But after a few days after that, she was able to do the things that she couldn't before. She was able to write the post. She was able to publish the thing. She was able to, to start to move forward because what we've done is we've actually gone into the body and released whatever it is that keeps you bracing or clenching or looping. And when you clear it out, like your system relaxes. And when your system relaxes, then there's space to make other decisions. So we do that. It feels like a closed eye somatic meditation. Like I'm taking you in, I'm walking you through it. You're doing it all for yourself. because I want everyone that I work with to be self-sufficient. The idea is to get them. Now, I'll have people who go a step further than that. They'll come, they'll clear the grief, and then they'll say, okay, now it's quiet. Now I want to know, like, how do I get to where you are, where you're waking up every day and you're just like, you know what you're going to eat and you know where you're going to go and you know if you're going to work out at 10 or if you're going to work out at 4 and like and you just do it. Like you're not thinking about it and you're not checking boxes on some spreadsheet somewhere that's telling you to do it. You're just living your life. Everything is organized and you're getting everything you want in your day. So then we move into deeper parts of the program. I call it in living rhythm. Like you figure out what your rhythm is. I help you figure out what your rhythm is. And every day you start to do things that show your body that it is safe for you to be in that new rhythm. You start with small decisions. You decide to eat, this is simplistic, but I like it because the image sticks with people. You decide to eat the mango instead of the Doritos. Your body goes, oh, that mango was good. I feel good. I have energy. I liked that. I didn't die. Amazing. Log mangoes. Eventually, your body wants you to optimize itself. Eventually, the Doritos go so far down the list, you don't even think about Doritos. You realize, wow, it's been 2 months. I didn't even eat a pack of Doritos. You didn't force yourself. You didn't punish yourself. You didn't go on a diet. You just started making different choices based on what you really wanted. And your body starts moving along with you. I worked with a woman who came to me and she said, I am super healthy. Why do I feel like I live on Cheetos? And I said, I know what you mean. I know what that feels like. So it's like you work on this. And then, there are some people who they'll go through grief, like a lost loved one, a divorce, something else will happen and a gift will open up and they'll be like, well, I don't know what to do with this, right? A lot of people have spiritual awakenings and then other people like have this creative gift that comes out. Like they're like, I want to sing. I've never sung before. I want to write. I've never written before. And it's like the grief starts to catalyze something in them that was always there, but that it was so big it brought it to the surface and it's asking now to be expressed. So I work with people on how you you process the grief so you can leave the suffering behind. You don't have to feel the pain of the experience, but you get to live through the gift as you move through the grief and see what it's going to bring into your life. So, artists, musicians, poets, a lot of these kinds of people will come find people who are having spiritual awakenings, but then feel disoriented. They're like, I go there and it's great, but then I come back to life and it doesn't match. And it's like everything is about the coherence of like allowing yourself to fully be present and live through the energy that is your life force. And none of these pieces need to be separated from one another. And life just becomes, when people say an effortless life, like to me, this is what it means. It's not that it doesn't require action or effort. It's that you're not fighting with yourself every time you do something or make a decision. You're actually in coherence. And so you just do it. And if it doesn't turn out so well, you note that and you don't do it again the same way. But you don't attach a story to it and you don't talk about it necessarily 10 years later in a way that makes you cry or scream or get angry.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that. So just to close here, like when do people come and work with you? When they are ready for what? They are ready to do what? Like, and then we'll end the
Well,
video. I know you have to go.
sure. I mean, they come to work with me when they're ready to stop having that internal battle all the time, when they don't want to wake up every day and feel tired and heavy in their body, when they don't want everything to feel like it's so hard or it's too much. People will come to me then, and then people will come to me when something really specific is happening, right? Like they're ready to transition out of their career. They just realized they're getting a divorce, they got a diagnosis, they lost somebody they loved, something else happened. So sometimes people will come to me and it's very specific, and they'll come to me for one session and they'll say that's what they want to work on and what they want to release. And then from there, it's like they pick their own journey. Like many of them will stay and work with me deeper. Others will come because they have this more general sense of, I feel like I'm living in this low grade fog and I just don't want to anymore. And then, we'll move through all of that. And so it is the most important thing is that the person that comes to me that is able to be successful is really ready to actually want to live a happy life. And I know that sounds a little strange because who doesn't want to live a happy life? You'd be surprised. Many of us, including myself, for a long time, were more attached to the identity of the suffering and the comfort that that chaos would bring rather than giving it up to figure out what life really feels like when you get to live without the suffering. I mean, suffering is a really, really powerful sensation in our body, and it interplays with the mind. It is also a chosen state of being. And I know that not everyone will agree with me on this, but I really believe that you don't choose every experience you have, but you can choose how long you're going to suffer in that experience. And when you're ready to not suffer in it anymore, I can help you make it feel a lot better so that you can hear yourself again and you can make decisions based on the life you really want rather than the life that you feel like is being, given to you.
I love this. I can continue like talking to you for hours because like 10 more questions came up already.
We
But
can do another one.
some other time we'll do this, you know. I love this, you know. I think this conversation had to happen, and I feel like there's so much more that exists out there in the world for us, you know. The bottleneck concept was like what's getting in between what we want for like what's our vision, right? And then the business becomes a bottleneck. But then I was like, I think it's not always the business. It's like us. Like there's something there, you know. And this conversation is going to, you know, open the door for many other conversations between, you know, anyone that's actually wanting to work with you, or maybe in the future we can do something more. But I appreciate this so much. For me, there is so much value in this, and I know there will be for other people. But we'll make sure everybody gets connected with you one way or another. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for this. I so much appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, thank you for inviting me. It was my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to us staying in conversation.
Yes, I love this. Okay.